They told us the masks would save us. They lied. I was a nurse then, bare hands and a tired chest, working in a hospital pressed against the front line. The building breathed war, antiseptic and copper on the air, yellow bulbs that hummed, blacked-out windows that let only distant artillery shape the silence. One evening, they wheeled in 3 patients, faces sealed behind aged gas masks. Through the lenses, I saw red glows, ember-like, steady. The lead doctor circled them with a clipboard, words clipped, as if the masks were part of a procedure no one needed to explain. I did what I always did, warmed cold skin, checked pulses, offered water. But the masks turned human touch into something strange. When I leaned in to listen, I tasted ozone and a bitterness I could not name. Their breaths hissed through tubes, slow and mechanical, not the ragged gasps I expected from the wounded. Small things unsettled me. One patient's fingers twitched without corresponding muscle movement. The glove at his wrist moved a heartbeat later, like a delayed echo. Marta, my colleague, refused to look at the lenses. "Reflections," she said. I wanted to believe her more than I wanted the truth. That night, the ward made new sounds, the rasp of tubing, faint clicks in the walls, a susurration I could not place. I woke once to the sensation of being observed. In the doorway stood a shadow with the posture of a nurse, head tilted, hands folded. When I blinked, it was gone. Patterns emerged. The hisses found a rhythm that didn't match the respirators. Several masks inhaled in almost perfect unison, a slow, calibrated breath that felt rehearsed. The red in the lenses seemed to drink the light, concentrating it into tiny cores that watched without blinking. And beneath the antiseptic, a metallic sweetness clung to everything, the kind that settles on your tongue and won't leave. I counted heartbeats until my own felt foreign. The clipboard's paper rustled like a distant storm. Somewhere, a machine clicked back into life, and the 3 masked figures shifted together, as if responding to a single command. They told us the masks would save us. Lying awake in the dim, I began to wonder who exactly they intended to save. They started bringing in more of them. At first, I thought the influx was because of the front, more wounded, more faces to hide. But the pattern was deliberate, always in 3s, always arriving after the same low-traffic convoy rattled past the hospital gates. The masks were no longer just coverings, they were fixtures, like wheeled monitors or the brass bed rails that gleamed under the lights. They had become the ward's focal point, and everything in the room bent toward them. One night I found a tangle of spare tubing shoved behind a supply cart. It led to an access panel in the wall, a place that should have only held wiring and dust. The panel smelled faintly of old batteries and something floral, like dried petals crushed underfoot. When I pried it open, the cables inside were not hospital grade. They were braided with a material that flexed like skin and hummed with the soft, consistent vibration of 1,000 bees. My fingers went numb where they touched it. Marta stopped coming to shifts. They told me she'd been reassigned. The truth came like a whisper in the stairwell. She kept asking why the masks were smiling in the dark. I went to her flat. Her bathtub was full of folded hospital linens. Her phone had 3 missed calls to a number I didn't recognize. Whoever answered said she left voluntarily. No one asked what she saw. The hissing changed. It began to mimic conversation. Soft syllables at first, like someone practicing foreign words, then phrases that threaded through the ward. Listen. Remember. Once, just below my ear, I heard my own name. Not spoken, but exhaled from a tube as though the respirator itself had learned to shape air into letters. I could feel it against my skin like a breeze from an open window. I started to notice the way the masks reacted to light. When sunlight struck the lenses, micro threads inside flickered and recorded the pattern, as if the glass were a camera, not a window. Late one afternoon, while charting vitals, I glimpsed movement in those reflections. My own face, elongated and furrowed, and behind it another set of features that didn't belong to me, thin, patient, and unbearably intent. For a moment, I thought the masks were watching a different me, living through their lenses. The staff grew distracted, hollow-eyed. They misfiled charts, handed over doses wrong by fractions, small errors that piled into an unsafe arithmetic. A senior nurse I trusted began to hum while she worked, a looping melody that synchronized with the respirator's slow inhalations. I tried to speak up, to demand an audit, but my words came out crooked, as though someone had retuned my mouth. And then the masks began to whisper in chorus when the lights went low. The voices were patient and precise, naming not diagnoses but desires. We want to learn your rhythm. When I woke from a fitful nap, my own bed sheets were damp with sweat and the taste of metal. My chest hurt as if something had pressed a hand against it and counted the beats. They were no longer things to treat. They were instruments tuned to a single human frequency. I thought the only way out was light. I thought if I dragged whatever evidence I could to the windows, ripped panels open for anyone who would look, someone would see the braided tubes, the humming flesh behind the walls, and the red eyes that watched like hungry stars. I was wrong. The night I decided to act, the ward smelled of burnt paper and coffee gone cold. Footsteps were muffled, the building itself seeming to hold its breath. I waited until the late shift fell into the automatic rhythm of charting and humming. Then I followed a cable that had slipped from a supply cart. It threaded through the baseboard and disappeared behind a metal plate I had pried at before. This time, I forced it wider. Behind the panel, the hospital was not infrastructure, but anatomy. Tubes braided into thicker conduits, then into tissue. The walls palpated like living muscle. I could hear, faint and certain, the pulse of something vast and patient. It was taking the ward's electricity and reshaping it into breath. When I brushed my fingers against the nearest conduit, warmth flooded up my arm, and a taste of iron bloomed on my tongue. Marta was there, if she had ever been anyone at all. She lay on a gurney, half in shadow, a mass of linens tucked around her shoulders like a shroud. When I crawled to her, I thought to peel the mask away, to find the face of the woman who had joked and smoked in the courtyard. Instead, the mask came off, and there was nothing underneath, no mouth, no nose, only smooth skin threaded with translucent veins that led back into the wall. Her eyes rolled, white and patient. Her lips shaped a syllable I could not hear, and the respirator at her chest answered. I screamed, but the sound was stupid and small. The staff turned, not with alarm but recognition, as if my outburst had been a cue. Their faces were slack, their hands careful. They moved in unison, an invisible choreography. One reached for a roll of tape and applied it to my wrist, soft, practiced. Another set a mask on the gurney beside me, its lenses catching the light and folding it into red. I fought until my limbs were wet with the ward's metallic sweet sweat. I cut a tube and watched it constrict as if wounded, and then something deeper in the wall swallowed the pressure and exhaled through the row of masks like appreciation. The respirators learned my rhythm by the time my breath hitched the first time. They matched it. They measured it. They cataloged it. When they strapped the mask to my face, the rubber tasted like memory. It sealed not just against my skin, but into it, intimate as a confession. Through the glass, I could see the others gathered, nurses, orderlies, the lead doctor, profiles blurred. Their voices joined into a slow chorus that named everything soft and mortal about me. Name, heartbeat, favorite hymn. I write this with hands that used to hold charts. My pen trembles because the breath that moves me now is not mine alone. Outside the windows, convoys still rattle past. Inside, the red cores record. Now they wear my face.
Transcribe to horror story bar.